Hey guys, welcome to Midnight Screaming. My name's Melanie, and today I'm going to talk a little bit about something that I feel kind of insecure about as a horror movie fan. When I'm talking to people about like their favorite horror movies and stuff, sometimes I get kind of like embarrassed because there's like a subgenre of horror movies that I do not watch because it freaks me out. I am not a fan of like exorcism movies, demon possession movies. Like I will rarely ever watch those types of films because I am so freaked out by like demon possession and stuff like that. It kind of stems from something that happened to me when I was a teenager. I have always been incredibly sensitive to like spiritual stuff. I grew up in the church. I do fully believe in God, demons, the devil, stuff like that. And I know a lot of people don't really believe any of that stuff is real, but I do believe. So when I was a teenager, I was really interested in film and multimedia, and so I started interning at a church with this guy. His family was very nice. I would go over to their house all the time and watch movies and stuff, and like they were very kind to me. The guy I interned with, he was the head of the multimedia department at this church. And one Sunday, something happened. I knew something happened because people were kind of like, ooh, there were murmurs of something weird that happened during a service or something. There was a woman screaming in the church that was removed. I just remember thinking, oh, I wonder what that was. That night, I went over to the multimedia director's house to hang out with him and his family and watch some TV show. I don't know. Okay, before the incident happened, I have always been extremely sensitive to spiritual stuff. Like sometimes I will feel like a demonic presence in a sense, like something like pressing on my chest or my back. And like when I was a kid, I would get this a lot. And I'd ask someone like, will you pray over my back or something? I don't know, if something feels weird, someone would pray and then like it would leave, whatever it was. I don't know. And it was hard to explain. And a lot of people were like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, I don't know. There's just some dark crap happening and I can feel it. So I know that makes me sound like a crazy person, but that's what I was dealing with when I was like a teenager. I went over to the multimedia director's house that evening after whatever happened at that church. And he was like, okay, I'm not supposed to share this with anyone. This is extremely hush hush. No one else knows except for the people on staff, and not even everyone knows what happened. And I'm like, okay, what happened? Who was that woman? Ugh, this story freaks me out. Okay, so he said that this woman showed up at the church and she was possessed by a demon. And like, this is not one of those churches that was like praying in tongues, super crazy stuff happening. It was like a non-denominational church where not a lot of weird stuff happened. It was just like, I don't know. It was pretty mid. So this I had never seen anything or heard anything like this before. I'll just say, Okay, so apparently what happened, based on what he got from this woman's partner, the night before, this woman and her boyfriend, they were at their apartment. They were talking about what to watch that night, and she was begging her boyfriend to watch Paranormal Activity, the movie. It had recently come out or something. I think it was like 2007, 2008 when this happened. So the guy was super confused. He said his girlfriend didn't like scary movies, so he was so confused why she was begging to see this film. And so he was like, okay, sure. So they went and rented the movie and then they turned it on. And he said during the movie, she started getting real weird and got really sick. And he was wondering like, what is happening? So apparently like the night went on, she kept getting really sick and like foaming at the mouth and weird stuff was happening. And he just felt like this extremely dark presence. So he thought the best course of action would be like, I'm gonna take her to some church or something and let some spiritual person look over her, because he was getting like the vibes of like something dark is happening. So without telling her, he put her in their car and he started driving towards the church that I was interning at, because I guess he had just seen it on the side of the road. He was driving, and when he pulled into the parking lot, his girlfriend freaked the crap out and she flung herself out of the car because she didn't want to go near the church. She was like screaming. And so this church was like a medium-sized church, I'd say, and there was like a parking lot ministry. So like all these parking lot attendants were like oh gosh, what's going on? And so they ran over to help her, and the husband, I guess, took her into the church, and I guess she like ran into where the service was happening or something and started just like screaming. And they were able to take her to, they were able to usher her into a different room that was really private. And this is where it gets me. Okay, so they took her into this room, and a bunch of pastors, obviously, that worked at this church were in the room with her. And I will always hate the guy that I worked for, because he took a video on his cell phone about what was going on. Oh, I will never forget. I will never forget what I heard, because I was not looking. I didn't want to see what was going on. I just heard what she was saying. They were all holding her down so like the main pastor could pray over her and try to exorcise the demon out of her. And like what she was saying, she was speaking in Latin. A lot of the words, I didn't know what it was. It was in Latin. The pastor was like saying like, the power of Christ compels you, or something like that. Every time he said like God or Christ or Jesus or something, she would just start screaming, don't say his name, don't say his name. Oh my gosh. I can still like hear it in my head, that recording. And I was so mad at the multimedia director, because I did not ever want to hear this recording. It freaked me out so much. They prayed over her and they weren't able to exorcise the demon. They weren't able to get it out of her. Someone called an ambulance because I guess she was pretty beat up from flinging herself out of the car and like whatever else she was doing to herself. And so they got her in an ambulance. They took her to the hospital. And so what I learned later was that the pastor followed her to the hospital, and he got into a room and he prayed over her more and more and more. And then eventually whatever it was left her body. And they said it took a long time, but whatever it was left her. I didn't hear that part. I just heard what was going on in that like room where they were holding her down. And so I was so freaked out. I've never heard anything like that before. When you grow up in the church, I feel like you hear a lot of weird stories about like demonic activity and stuff. So I'd heard lots of different people talk about like, oh, well, I heard this person saw this. And I was always very aware, like demonic activity was around us, I guess. I don't know. But then when I heard that recording, it just like, that was the scariest moment of my life, hearing that. I don't know. It really affected me. So like I went home and I was like praying the whole way home, like God help me. And then like I threw away anything in my house that had like any sort of like demonic possession. Like I threw out tons of seasons of Supernatural. I had a bunch of Supernatural seasons on DVD and I threw them all in the garbage because I was so freaked out. And so like since then, that was, I don't know, that was like over 15 years ago now. And I really love the horror genre. I do love it. And there's some things where I can watch where it doesn't exactly freak me out. But I don't know, man. Just the idea of going into certain movies and watching them about like fake demonic possessions and stuff, like, I don't know. It just freaks me out. Like when I'm talking about horror movies with people, I feel like a bad horror movie fan because there's just some movies I probably will never see because I'm just too scared. And I've had this conversation with multiple friends who like didn't grow up in the church and they don't believe in any like demonic stuff. They just don't believe it. Like for them, some movies that like show like serial killers are scarier to them because they like, oh, well, serial killers are real, but all this other stuff is fake. But like in my head and in my heart from hearing this freaking video, I'm like, I know that stuff is real. Even just telling the story, I just get like the heebie-jeebies. I'm like, ooh, I don't know. It's just it freaked me out so much when it happened. I feel like a bad horror fan because yeah, there's just some movies like I don't really want to mess with. After you said that the movie she watched was Paranormal Activity, I was like, I'm never going to see Paranormal Activity. I'm never going to watch it because like, why did she beg to see that movie? You know, something was going on. I don't know. There's just some things I'm probably not going to expose myself to because I'm just too freaked out. I know people are going to doubt me. I get it. Totally get it. And I get it if y'all think like, I don't know, she's not really a horror fan if she doesn't mess with certain types of movies. I get it. This is just me being completely honest. There are certain movies that like I want to see, but I'm not really sure if I'm going to. I feel like a lot of people probably are more like spiritually like in tune. And I'm not saying like I'm like the most spiritual person or something. I just know like sometimes I can feel like darkness or like a pressure pressing on me that is like demonic. I don't know. I don't know how to describe it. Well, that's my story. Like not really my paranormal experience, but my adjacent paranormal experience. And why maybe I'm a bad horror fan in some people's eyes. I don't know. But yeah, that's what happened. Thanks so much for watching. Hope y'all have a great day.